I don't really have time to film. I do have time to film, but it would mean that I wouldn't be able to do some other stuff, and the other stuff I really should be doing more than filming. So I'm giving myself a maximum of 10 minutes. And if you watch my videos, you know that I do say, oh, I can't film for long, like I film 5-10 minutes later. I could film for 5-10 minutes, and then I'm still filming like 40 minutes later. But today I've really, when I see 10 minutes or less, I mean, I might finish what I'm saying before then, I do genuinely have to stop filming because I can't prioritise filming over life. I know filming is part of life for me, but yeah. So I was sat here. Well, I think actually the dog went and pushed the door open and she went into the conservatory and led down. And because the back door's open, obviously it's cold. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be cold. So I walked across the room and pulled the conservatory door to the point of closure, but I don't close it. Not that she can open it coming in, she can only open it going out. But anyway, I don't fully shut it. And then I was like, stood over there and I was about to walk across the room, and I glanced to my right, and on the table is a book. I got this as one of my birthday presents, and I've wanted this book for ages because it originally came out in hardback ages ago. And I'm not really a big fan of hardbacks. I will occasionally get a hardback, but I do prefer paperbacks, which is ironic to say because as a child and probably a teenager, I preferred hardbacks. I thought they looked better, like you couldn't really they were like tougher, they were less bendable, they aged less because you're not, it's not like a paperback. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you don't, then, I can't explain it very well because my brain's just not braining. So, but now I prefer paperbacks, and I have done it for a long time because they're easier to hold. They're easy to, open and bend back and stuff. So I didn't get the hardback, but I have got a Dawn French book called, I think it's called According to Yes. Is that what it's called? And I got that around the time it came out, and it's ironic because I was in hospital at the time. I think I was in for 8 days or 10, one of those. And I got the book. I don't know if I got it before I went in there or it was got whilst I was in there. I truly can't remember. I mean, hopefully that memory will come back. But I was reading that book in hospital. I feel like I had it before I went in. Or did I get it bought when I was in there? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. And that's hardback, and I believe I still actually have that book. And I don't generally keep a lot of books. I generally read them. If I love them, I tend to keep hold of them, but I do eventually just donate them to charity. So, and I do have a few Dawn French books. There was this one time she did this diary. It was an interactive diary. And it was a hardback. I used to love writing in that diary every day. Sometimes I'd forget a day or two, and then I'd go and write in it. And it had little stories that she wrote in it, and then there would be spaces to write your diary stuff. I wish she did that again because that was one of the best things I've ever had. But she is a novelist as well, and I have read some of her books. But I wanted this book. But when it came out, I didn't really want the hardback, but I would have got it, but I just never ended up getting round to it. So this came out a little while ago, and I really wanted it. So I have ended up with it as a birthday present, and I'm really happy to get it because I wanted to get it. So it took me a while to get to that. So I just glanced at it, and I picked it up, and I was stood there, and I just flicked through it. And because I wasn't really going to read any, because, it wasn't the plan to start reading the book. And I was scrolling quickly through it, and I didn't even spend long before I found this section called, how many pages is it? Is it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 pages, and it's called Never Meet Your Idols. And I'm thinking, I want to read that because it's ironic, because do you know, like when sometimes you want to meet your idols and a lot of people meet them and a lot of people end up disappointed, or some people have really wonderful interactions and some people have like a 5-10 second interaction. And I've always, because I've never like, as a child I was extremely shy, and then as like a teenager onwards I had no confidence at all, and I've only gained confidence in the last like maybe 5 or 6 years, because I've been put in a position where I've had to gain confidence because of what has gone on in my life, and I've got more and more confident because I've had to deal with stuff and people. So I've gained confidence, so I've got more confidence now than I've ever had. And I remember like quite a few people, like even famous people, like have had bad experiences with idols and like people they've looked up to, and like some have openly talked about who these people are. And people say like, don't meet your idols because you'll be disappointed, and then what you ever thought about them before would be ruined forever, and you might have like been a fan of someone for like 20 years and you meet them and it could shatter your illusions. So I've always been very mindful and careful about who I've met, and I've seen people in the flesh that I, not necessarily like a massive fan, but I like, and I'm like, oh God, I could meet them, but I don't. To me, I see certain situations like, if you're out somewhere and you see a celebrity, they're not on stage, they're not performing for you. Yeah, there's people who work in television who obviously you can't meet them when they're filming, but I feel like in some situations, like if they're out with the family or something, especially if they've got children, I feel like they should be left alone. And I've seen situations where people are actually hounding a celebrity or a minor celebrity when they're out with the children, and that must be a scary experience with smaller children when there's like handful or more people just bombarding and like acting overzealous with celebrities. So it's like, I've always said like, if I saw like, not that I would personally go up to John Bon Jovi because I do think he's a bit of a narc. There's sometimes I watch him and like in an interview and I'm like, oh, I like him, and then some other times I'm like, yeah, he's a narc. So, but if I saw him in the street, I wouldn't necessarily go up to him and like speak to him, because there's John Bon Jovi on stage, and like whether it's performing or being interviewed, he's obviously going to put on his John Bon Jovi persona, but I think away from there is not quite who he alludes to on stage. Anyway, so I wouldn't necessarily go up to him and speak to him, because what am I going to say to him? And that's another thing. Oh, I'm a fan. Like, he meets fans all the time. It's like, he's going to meet you and it's going to be an insignificant meeting to him, but to you as a fan, it's going to be everything to you. And that meeting with him or whoever it may be might leave you feeling, what the hell, like, they're not who I thought they were. And then you might go forward in life not enjoying that person or whatever it is the way you used to. So it would shatter your illusions. And I personally wouldn't go up to John Bon Jovi or Madonna or whoever, because I feel if they're not on stage performing, especially a musician, and if it's not like directly outside the concert or places where they would expect you to be, like you might wait outside the hotel. I mean, I've never gotten that, but you know, I wouldn't purposely go up to them. Like, I've been places and I've like, you know, like been in a queue for something, and like behind me there might be like someone like who's on TV. Like, I've been places where there's been people from Coronation Street like just going about the daily business, and they've been behind me in the queue. Or there was one time I was in a queue and it wasn't obvious it was the queue because it looked like there was only a few people, and someone from Corrie came up to me and said, oh, is this the queue? And I was like, oh yeah, it is. And I recognised them, but that was it. I went going, oh my God, you're on Corrie. Like, do you know what I mean? They're just normal people. So I was really interested by this chapter in the book, and she talks about David Cassidy and Norah Jones. And she never met David Cassidy, although she had the chance, and she's saying like, was I a massive... And then she didn't meet Nora Jones, but she did something embarrassing. So, and I was reading it, and I'm because like she says about like don't meet like your idols or whatever, and it's ironic because I had the chance to meet Jennifer Saunders, and I'm a fan of both of them. I think slightly more so Jennifer Saunders than Dawn French, even though in a way I like them equally, but I've been more of a fan of Jennifer Saunders because she writes a lot of the stuff she does. But I do like Dawn French a lot because I've read her books and stuff. I mean, I've read Jennifer Saunders' book. And I had this opportunity to meet Jennifer, and so did a lot of other people. And I thought, as much as I've been a fan of her and Dawn since I was a child, because they've just always been on TV and like I've always known who they are, I don't need to meet her. As much as I'd love a picture with her, like that interaction might not be good, and like she might not have time to meet everyone who's potentially there to meet her, and she might be tired, she might just be irritated with everyone. Like, I don't know how she's gonna be, and I didn't want to meet her and potentially have a bad experience. Like, and she might not be a nasty person, she might be just like, oh my god, there's like 50 people here, I don't want to speak to them all, but I'm going to have to, or I'm going to speak to one or two and then go. And then there's all those people who want to meet her who potentially don't get to meet her. And they might get to meet her, I don't know, but I didn't want like a 5-second interaction that might not be good. So I didn't meet her. I chose not to meet her because I don't need to meet her. Don't want to. I don't think I want to meet my idols. So if I was somewhere and like we were queuing or something, or somewhere where I turned round and we just talked, then yeah, I wouldn't go, oh god, I know you, like, you're Jennifer Saunders. I wouldn't ever like do that. But I see people doing things like that, and you can see some of them do feel uncomfortable with it. Some of them like the attention, some don't. Like, they don't want to like have people going, oh god, you're such and such. Like, but if I saw her walking down the street, I would 100% stare at her. Like, I'd be like, oh my god, that's Jennifer Saunders, like, act normal. And I'd probably be there, like, not acting normal. But it's funny because, like, even celebrities don't meet their idols, or if they do, some have been left very disappointed by these people. And I have met Penn and Teller, they are really famous, and there's a lot of people who don't know who they are. They've been around forever. And when I met them that first time, and there's videos about where I've talked about how it made me feel, and that's when I didn't really have much confidence. I'd gained a little bit of confidence, and I met them, and it did actually have a profound effect on me because of how nice and down to earth they were, and they were so charming. Like, they made you feel like they were the ones meeting you. But you're not always going to get that. And that's why I met them the second time, because it was just such a great experience. And when I met them the second time, I weren't nervous, I weren't anxious. It was just like I was meeting someone that I knew, but I don't know. It was so surreal, and that's how they make you feel. But, 90% of experiences with famous people, whether they're like just like Z-list or A-list, they're not going to be the great experiences. And that's what that bit of this book basically says. Even though she didn't meet these two people, they're both her idols. One she turned down meeting because she didn't want to ruin the illusion of her childhood of like having this crush on David Cassidy and thinking like they should be together. And like 30 years later, she got the chance to meet him and she turned it down. And then there was the Nora Jones story where she did something foolish. So yeah, it just made me realise, like, because it just reminded me of the fact that I could have met Jennifer and I chose not to because I just didn't want a bad experience, and I didn't want my illusions of her to, like, because I also know that Dawn French isn't always the the most, I won't say unpolite people to fans, but I've heard a few things about her. One of them was when I was watching the Graham Norton show when she was on, and they had that big red chair and people come in and tell stories. This woman got in the chair and started telling a story about Dawn French whilst Dawn French is sat there on the couch. And she said that how she was like in, because Dawn lives in Cornwall and she has a place in London. She was walking down this road in Cornwall where Dawn used to live, and Dawn was on a driveway talking to someone, and this woman decided to go up to like the gate to Dawn's property and like try and speak to Dawn, and Dawn apparently told her to go away, but using very strong language. And Dawn French initially had a look of horror on her face because she'd been outed, but she's literally at home. So to me, I feel if someone is in their home, whether it's inside or outside, there's a gate across there for a reason. Yeah, if she's outside the gate on the road, maybe say hi, but she's in her private property. And this woman wanted to meet Dawn French. So I could see why Dawn maybe have told her to go away, but she literally used a 4-letter word followed by off. And I think, you know, maybe she should have just blanked her or just said, like, I'm on, like, this is my private property, can you please leave me alone? I feel like, you know, and at first she looked shocked, and then there was like people laughed about it, so she laughed it off. And then I read a story recently where someone basically said that she'd gone to a theatre show, and in front of her was Dawn French, and she was sat with some people, and I think she spoke, either like tapped Dawn on the shoulder or spoke to her, and Dawn turned around and said that she was there with friends and family, and she wasn't performing tonight, so she wasn't going to interact. So, and that's what she said to her fan. Now, I can understand that she doesn't want to be bothered because she's literally gone to a theatre show with her family, and she doesn't want to spend the night interacting with people who she doesn't know because she's there to watch a show. And she's probably been in a situation like this before where she's like had a photo or talked to someone, and then she's probably had countless people coming up to her all night. So that's potentially why she shut it down straight away. And that also says to me that is why there's certain situations where you definitely should not approach famous people, because if they've gone to see a show, obviously they're there with people, they want to spend the time with those people. Yeah, it's probably disappointing if you really want to meet that person, but they're literally watching a show with family. How would you feel if you've gone out for a night with your friends or your family or both, and you kept getting interrupted all night? It's things like that that I hear that makes me think I'm probably not going to meet certain people whether I get the opportunity or not. I mean, obviously, if I don't get the opportunity, I won't meet them, you know. And there's certain people that I think, like, if I'm somewhere and I see such and such, would I approach them? And there's times where I think, God, I want to because of who they are, but then I think, but I don't want to because what as if it's a negative experience? What as if they just totally blank me? What as if they tell me to go away? Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to be in that sort of situation. I'd rather just, you know, enjoy the music or enjoy their acting or whatever they do than have a negative experience. It's like if you meet these people, what are you going to say? You're just going to stand there telling them how wonderful they are. Like, what are you going to say to them? Like, to me, like, I wouldn't want to stand there going, oh God, you're wonderful, I love this about you, I love that. Like, I don't want to, like, lick someone's you know what. Like, I don't want to, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't, they probably hear it all the time. If I met someone famous, I wouldn't want to, like, you know, if there's, like, I don't know, like, it's one of those situations, like, what as if they've done something that's, like, helped you. Like, there's certain songs that have helped me. If I meet these people that have made these songs, am I going to go, oh, well, your song such and such, like, changed my life or it helped me through a difficult time? Maybe I would. But I don't want to stand there, like, if we stood there for 2 minutes going, oh, God, you're wonderful. Like, I'm not that person. I'm not going to tell them they're wonderful because they probably hear it all the time. And there is, like, people that I would seriously consider meeting, like, you know, like if I was in the situation and they were just there. But would I really go and meet them? Like, would I go up to them? Would I, like, you know, talk to them? Because I have stories about Bon Jovi. The first time I went to London to see them, I was walking down the road.
I'm walking down the road, just people say hello. I see you looking great. I say thank you, your hair is so great. I say thank you, but I'm just walking down the road. I say, are you still in McCartney Space to me? I say, yeah, thank you, so cool. Walking down the road, walking down the road, walking down the road, looking at the trees, people passing by. They say, how do you look so great for your age today? I don't know, walking down the road.
And there was this like, do you know like those metal things that you sometimes see around buildings but you can't see through them, and they're like corrugated metal but they're not super heavy, they can be moved easily. Was walking past this hotel and they had them up around part of the hotel. I think it might have been like a back entrance or something, and as we're walking towards it, some minivans pulled up with blacked out windows, and two people like pulled open these corrugated bloody, I don't know what they're called, things to stop people from seeing through, and two of the minivans pulled in, and as we're walking past, members of Bon Jovi's team start getting out these vans, and I couldn't actually speak because I'm like, I don't want to speak and then hear me say literally Bon Jovi's in those vans, like the actual band, because some of the well-known people that travel with them and work with them were getting out the vans. I'm like, oh my God. So I carry on walking, and they didn't fully close the things that they'd opened to get the minivans in. And when we got far enough away but you could still see them, I stopped and turned round. I was like, literally, look, Bon Jovi are literally getting out of those vans. That was the closest I'd been to them when there was literally no fans or anything around, and I'm literally watching them get out the vans, but I'm trying to do it like I'm just stood there like, yeah, I'm just stood here. I'm not just like trying to see Bon Jovi. And before everyone even got out the van, I just set off walking because I was just like, what do you do in that situation? I'm not going to like run down there and go, oh my God, you're Bon Jovi. But some people would, and that's what, like, I've seen people act all crazy around famous people. And that was when they were opening the O2. And when we went to the O2, we were stood there near the merch stand before you go up the escalators. And there's this thing, and I don't know if the layout of the building's changed since then. I don't know, have I been since then? Oh, I have been since then. But high up in the rafters, I could see Richie Sambora, and this was after he'd been in like rehab, and he'd come back to the band just in time for them opening the O2. And I was like stood like looking at the merch stand like from a distance because I didn't know if I was going to buy anything. I was just looking at the prices, and there were people coming in through security, and then there were people milling around, and there was people queuing up for the merch stand, and I was just looking around taking it all in because the O2 had never been like open before then because Bon Jovi opened it. And I looked up into the rafters, and there was like a man stood up there, and at first I'm like, how's he got up there? And then I just looked, and it was Richie Sambora, and he was literally everything you would think. You know, he had like the big coat on, and he had his cowboy hat on, you know, the black one he typically wears when they do Wanted Dead or Alive. And I'm literally like, Richie Sambora stood up there. And I said it quietly because obviously there's loads of people milling around who'd probably lose the shit over that. And like, I didn't like stand and stare, but I was like, literally Richie Sambora's there. And he was probably looking at the people coming in. Obviously, he's not just like stood there because he's contemplating his life or anything. I mean, he might have been, who knows. But yeah, I was just like, Richie Sambora's there. Like, it was so surreal to see him that close, because even though I've been at concerts, that's the closest I've been to him, other than when I'd seen them pull up. But he was one of the ones I didn't actually see get out of the minivan, because I did leave before they'd all gotten out. So, because I saw Hugh McDonald, I saw Tico, and I saw David Bryan's hair, because he was just getting out as I turned around. So I didn't see John and I didn't see Richie. So yeah, I saw Richie up in the rafters. And I have another story about being super close to Richie. I mean, I've been super close to John when he came up to, when I saw them at the O2 the third time, because I saw them 2 nights back to back when they did the 12-night residency. I went to night 11 and 12. And I was third row on the final night, and he comes up to our section, so he was literally stood right in front of me. But I do have a Rich Sambora story from the first night of those 2 nights, but I will leave that for another video. But the purpose of the video is, you think carefully before you meet your idols, because I have heard horror stories, and I've also heard celebrities talk about bad experiences when they've met their idols. And, you know, you might meet your idols, you might have the most amazing experience of your life, like I did. That first time with Penn and Teller was definitely a life-changing thing for me. If you were around at that time, you'll know the effect it had on me. And then that second time was a really amazing time. Sadly, that was taken away from me the next day when I came back to reality. But when I met them that second time, it was just this magical experience, because I just wasn't nervous. It was like I was going up to someone I'd known for years. It was so weird. Like, I wasn't nervous, I wasn't anxious, like, you know what I mean? But they were everything and more you could ever imagine. But just because that meeting with them two, those 2 times, was good, don't mean, like, if I met, like, Jennifer Saunders, that it would be amazing, because it might be the worst experience, and I just chose not to meet her. But I had the opportunity, and I just didn't take it, because I just didn't want a negative experience, because you don't want negative experiences. I mean, I've seen French and Saunders when they did their final tour, because I was finally old enough to go and see them, and I could have gone to Stage Door, I could have met them. There was a time that Dawn was doing, is it like that show she did, a one-woman show, the first one she did, was it called 100,000 Minutes or something, or whatever it was called, and it was only on in London. I almost got tickets to go and see that show, and because she toured that other book that she did, God, what was it called? I can't remember. But she eventually toured it, and she came to actually Blackburn, and I missed out on tickets, and I was gutted. And then when she toured again with this one, she never came even remotely close, so I couldn't go and see it. I would have loved to, but I do have the book now, but I would go and see her live. But yeah, I could have met French and Saunders, because I grew up, like, they've always been on TV for me, so it's always been part of my life. And I remember when Dawn French did, like, her initial one-woman show, and it was on in London for a month or whatever it was, like, there was loads of stuff online, like, she was literally meeting everyone after the show, because to her, she was probably still at work, like, she was leaving the show, and people wanted to meet her, and she was literally meeting as many people as she could. So, with that knowledge, if I had gone to London, I probably would have waited at Stage Door for some amount of time. Like, I wouldn't have stayed there, A, if it was raining, or I wouldn't have stayed, like, a massive long amount of time, but I would have gone and met her, like, if I was able to. But there's majority of situations I wouldn't put myself in. And that's just me personally, but I know people, like, I mean, they go to people's hotels. Some people check into the same hotel and try to bump into people they watch and, like, idolise. But it's just not for me, personally. But you do you, but always have in the back of your mind, like, are they going to be who you want them to be? Are you going to be bitterly disappointed if they turn out to be nothing like their stage persona? Because a lot of time you'll find that, like, especially musicians, they're nothing like they are on stage, because they're putting on an act on stage. They're putting on like who they are on stage. Away from stage, there are a lot of them that are nothing like that amazing persona you see on stage, and it's all an act. On that note, I've talked far too long, and I need to go and do a few things before I start getting ready to take out my Did you hear that? Loads of stuff's just fallen off something randomly for no reason. Gotta go and pick that up because the dog will shred it because it's paperwork and maybe some other stuff, I don't know. But on that note, I hope you all have a great day. Maybe I've inspired some of you not to meet your idols. All I will say is be careful, and maybe even do some research and like see if anyone's had any experiences with people that you'd like to meet or that you may have the opportunity to meet, because not everyone is who you think they're going to be. And it's like people meet like people who've played parts in like shows for like 20-30 years and think that's character's real. It's a character. They're not that character, so just be careful. But have a great day, everyone. Subscribe if you've not done, if you'd like to, and I'll be back soon.